Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Good afternoon, everybody. So, this lesson for the second year baccalaureate, and it will be about relative clauses, as you can see. Firstly, what is a relative clause? A relative clause is a phrase that adds information to a sentence. All relative clauses describe a noun. So, we're talking about relative pronouns, and of course these relative pronouns, they try to describe a noun, and of course these relative pronouns also, they are used inside a sentence. Thirdly, they begin with one of a relative pronoun or relative adverb. The first question, what is a relative clause? So let me give you a list of the WH words or relative pronouns that I'm talking about. The first one is who. We use it to describe people, and it is used as a subject. The example which is accompanied here, or which is given here, is the woman who works in the bank is my neighbor. So we have who, and it refers to the woman. Okay? Second one, whom, to describe people, and it is used an object. The example of this second relative pronoun is my cousins, one of whom is a doctor, live in England. The third one, whose, to describe possession. The example is the man whose car was stolen went to the police station. Try to observe that whose here is used between two nouns, before and after. So before whose we have man, and after whose we have car. So whenever you find a sentence like this, you can choose whose in the given sentence. That, to describe things, and it is defining relative clauses. The example is I'm selling the computer that I bought in the United States. We have which, to describe things, and it is non-defining relative clauses. I am selling this computer which has 250 GB hard drive for $500. Relative pronouns. When, to describe times, which means I am continuing presenting for you all the relative pronouns we have in English. So we have when, we use it to describe times. My favorite season is fall, when all the leaves change color. So when refers to fall. And we have where, to describe places. I visited the neighborhood where I grew up. Where refers to the neighborhood. Why, to give a reason. Do you know the reason why the stores are closed today? Why refers to the reason. Now, let's move to relative adverbs. As you see here, we have who, we have that, we have which, whose, when, where, and whom. Yesterday, I met a man who works in the circus. I bought a cell phone, it has internet access. There is a restaurant, I ate at that restaurant last night. So in these examples, we have in each sentence, or in each example, we have two sentences, which means the first one, yesterday I met a man, and the second one, he works in the circus. So between the first sentence and the second sentence, we try to combine the first part with the second part with a suitable relative pronoun. Here is an example of some English sentences without relative clauses. So here are the right answers. Yesterday I met a man who works in the circus. A relative pronoun is who, and it refers to the man. Second example, I bought a cell phone that has internet access. We have that, and it refers to the phone. The last one, there is the restaurant where I ate last night. We have where, and it refers to the restaurant. Now, same sentences with relative clauses. Okay, here are just some examples or some information presented to you. Okay, we have non-defining, and we have relative, we have information, we have skirt, etc., which means it's a plenty of information, and it's given to you with different attractive colors, as you can see. Now, what's the difference between non-defining relative clauses and defining relative clauses? The first one, non-defining relative clauses, add extra information to the sentence, and defining relative clauses add essential information to the sentence. Defining versus non-defining relative clauses. You can say if a relative clause is defining or non-defining by removing it from the sentence. If you remove a non-defining relative clause, the sentence still has the same meaning. If you remove a defining relative clause, the sentence has a different meaning or is incomplete. How can I tell the difference? My brother, who lives in California, is an engineer. If you remove who lives in California, the sentence still has the same meaning. My brother is an engineer. The relative clause, who lives in California, is extra information. I think it's very clear for you to distinguish between what is defining and what is non-defining relative clause. In written English, use a comma before and after non-defining relative clauses. Examples of a sentence with a non-defining relative clause. That's the student who failed English class 3 times. If you remove who failed English class 3 times, the sentence is incomplete. That is the student. Which student I am talking about? So it is incomplete then. Therefore, the relative clause who failed English class 3 times is essential information because it defines which students specifically we're talking about. Example of a sentence with a defining a relative clause. I read all the books that I borrowed from the library. Without a clause, I read all the books. Sentence is incomplete. What books? The new Stephen King book, which I borrowed from the library, is very good. Without clause, the new Stephen King book is very good. Sentence is complete. The library part was only an extra detail. Now let me give you more examples about this. Use which for non-defining relative clauses and use a comma before it. Use that for defining relative clauses and don't use a comma before it. Which or that. The bananas that I bought on Monday are rotten. The bananas which I bought on Monday are rotten. So in the first example I use that, and in the second one I use which. In the first case, it is possible that we have two types of bananas in the house. In the second case, all the bananas in the house were bought on Monday and they are rotten, and they are all rotten. What is the difference? Now, we have an exercise here. So this exercise is going to be presented for you on my page on Facebook, and of course on my WhatsApp account for my dear students. I thank you very much, and I hope that you enjoy learning this lesson about relative clauses. Thank you very much, and meet you in the next lesson. Bye.